Welcome back to the YouTube channel, where we uncover the incredible stories hidden behind everyday coins, the kind you might pass by without a second glance, yet they hold a value that can reach astronomical levels when the right conditions align. Today, we're diving into a fascinating chapter in numismatic history that centers on the humble 5-cent coin minted in 1954, a coin that, under rare and extraordinary circumstances, has been associated with a value of up to $50 million. That's right, $50 million for a single nickel. It sounds unbelievable, but as we peel back the layers of this story, you'll see how history, rarity, condition, and collector demand can elevate an ordinary coin into the stratosphere of monetary worth. This isn't just about a coin, it's about everything that surrounds it: context, minting processes, historical events, collector obsession, and even a bit of myth that helps amplify the coin's legendary status. Let's step back into the early 1950s, a time when America was navigating the post-World War II era. The country was shifting gears into economic growth, consumer confidence was on the rise, and the average American family was settling into a lifestyle filled with optimism and new beginnings. Against that backdrop, the U.S. Mint continued its regular production of coins, including the Jefferson nickel, which had been in circulation since 1938. Designed by Felix Schlag, the Jefferson nickel had a simple but dignified design: Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello on the reverse. By 1954, it had become a familiar piece of everyday currency, used for everything from paying for a cup of coffee to getting change at the local grocery store. At first glance, the 1954 nickel seemed like any other coin of its time. It was struck in relatively high numbers, over 100 million pieces combined from the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. But as collectors and historians would later discover, not all 1954 nickels were created equal. Certain small details, minting errors, and striking anomalies began to emerge over time, and it was in the pursuit of these rarities that the legend of the 1954 nickel began to grow. What really separates a $50 million coin from its ordinary counterparts is not just rarity, but the story behind it, the condition in which it survived, and the unique appeal it holds in the eyes of top-tier collectors. One of the key elements contributing to the potential value of a 1954 5-cent coin is its condition. In the world of numismatics, condition is king. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with the highest grades indicating a flawless or nearly flawless specimen. Most 1954 nickels found in circulation today show signs of wear, nicks, scratches, dull luster, because they were used heavily in daily commerce. But on rare occasions, coins are discovered that seem to have escaped time itself, appearing as though they were just minted yesterday. These coins are graded at the highest levels, often MS-67, MS-68, or even higher if they meet the absolute pinnacle of preservation. Only a tiny handful of 1954 nickels have ever been found in these ultra-high grades. Those few survivors often come from original mint sets, preserved rolls, or have been hidden away in private collections for decades. When such a specimen comes to light, it instantly becomes a magnet for the most passionate and wealthy collectors, driving its price into the stratosphere. One of the most famous 1954 nickels to ever sell at auction achieved a price well into 6 figures, and rumors persist of private sales involving truly exceptional specimens fetching multiple millions. These stories, whether entirely accurate or slightly embellished, fuel the mystique surrounding the 1954 nickel. But there's more to the story than just condition. Another significant factor in the massive valuation of certain 1954 nickels is the existence of errors and varieties. The U.S. Mint, despite its precision, occasionally produces coins with unintended characteristics: double dies, overdates, planchet errors, off-center strikes, and repunched mint marks. Some of these errors are extremely rare and command high prices in the collector's market. For the 1954 nickel, One of the most sought-after varieties is the 1954S with an overpunched mint mark or a double die obverse. These varieties are not easy to find, and most collectors may go their entire lives without encountering one in the wild. But if you do find one, especially in top condition, the value can soar exponentially. The story takes another fascinating turn when we explore the history and operations of the U.S. Mint during this period. In the early 1950s, the Mint was grappling with modernization and changes in coin production techniques. There were fluctuations in the availability of materials, variations in die preparation, and subtle changes in quality control measures. These factors occasionally led to inconsistencies in the finished coins, which are now pored over by experts with magnification and meticulous attention to detail. It's these small inconsistencies that give rise to valuable varieties and rare specimens. And when combined with the historical period, a time of significant economic and cultural transformation, these coins become even more than monetary instruments. They become historical artifacts. Adding to the intrigue is the fact that 1954 was a pivotal year for the San Francisco Mint. That year marked the final regular issue of nickels from the San Francisco Mint before it was shut down for coinage operations, not to reopen until decades later. This historical closure adds an additional layer of scarcity to the 1954's nickel, making high-grade examples even more desirable among collectors. The knowledge that no more nickels would come out of San Francisco after 1954 until 1968 gives this coin an almost commemorative aura, an unintentional farewell from a storied mint. Let's also talk about provenance. Sometimes a coin's value isn't just about its physical characteristics or its technical grade, but also about who owned it and how it came to be recognized. One of the most famous 1954 nickels ever documented was once part of a legendary collection curated by a prominent numismatist in the 1970s. The coin had a flawless surface, strong luster, and was discovered to be a rare double die example. It changed hands quietly in a private sale, reportedly for a sum that shocked even veteran coin dealers. Stories like this, whether fully confirmed or passed along in whispers, have a way of fueling collector frenzy. It's not just the coin, it's the legend that goes with it. That brings us to one of the more mysterious and controversial elements of the $50 million valuation. While number 1954 nickel has sold at public auction for that amount, there are persistent rumors in the numismatic world of a one-of-a-kind specimen, possibly a prototype, a pattern coin, or a unique mint error that was never meant to be released. This particular coin, allegedly struck on a silver planchet rather than the usual copper-nickel composition, may have slipped out of the mint under unknown circumstances. If it does exist, it would be a singular artifact, a true unicorn in the world of coin collecting. Its value, in that context, would be incalculable. And that's where the mythos of the $50 million 1954 nickel finds its footing, not in broad public sales, but in the tantalizing possibility that such a coin might exist, locked away in a vault, waiting for the day it reemerges. Collectors and historians love a good mystery, and the 1954 nickel delivers on all fronts. Whether it's the hunt for a double die variety, the thrill of finding a high-grade uncirculated piece, or the hope of uncovering a unique error coin, this nickel captures the imagination in ways that few other coins can. For many, the chase itself is the reward. But for others, especially those with deep pockets and a deep love of numismatics, the right 1954 nickel could become the centerpiece of a world-class collection. And if that coin is the rumored one-of-a-kind specimen, its value could realistically reach the heights of $50 million, not just for its material worth, but for its historic significance and unmatched rarity. Over the years, stories of exceptional 1954 nickels have made headlines in the numismatic community and beyond. Auction houses have described bidding wars over pristine examples. Coin shows have buzzed with rumors of new discoveries. Dealers have recounted tales of lucky finds in old change jars, estate sales, or dusty coin folders tucked away in attics. Each time one of these coins surfaces, it reignites the conversation and keeps the legend alive. And as more collectors enter the field, the demand for rare and high-quality coins only increases. In a market where rarity meets passion, the sky is truly the limit. It's also important to understand the psychology of value when it comes to coins. Sometimes, a coin becomes valuable not just because of what it is, but because of what people believe it represents. The 1954 nickel, especially in its rarest forms, symbolizes the possibility that something ordinary can be extraordinary. It's a metaphor for overlooked potential. And when collectors are willing to assign immense value to that idea, the market responds accordingly. It's not just about metal and mint marks. It's about dreams, history, and the human fascination with uniqueness. So, whether you're someone who's been collecting coins for decades or you're just getting started, the story of the 1954 5-cent coin offers a powerful reminder of why this hobby is so enduring. There's always another discovery to be made, another mystery to solve, another piece of history to hold in your hand. Last, I hope everyone's having a fantastic day, and if you're into coins, numismatics, or just love those unexpected historical tales where something ordinary turns out to be a goldmine, you're in the right place. Because today we're going to dive deep into a story that sounds like something out of a movie. A story involving a seemingly ordinary 2000p 5-cent coin that's tied to a staggering figure of $45 million. That's right, a nickel, just 5 cents in face value, but with a history and mystique that has collectors, historians, and everyday folks completely fascinated. Now, I know what you're thinking. How does a coin minted in the year 2000 with a Philadelphia mint mark even come close to being associated with such a massive amount of money? Is it an error coin? Was it made of some secret material? Was it a prototype that never should have left the mint? Well, over the next hour or so, we're going to unpack all the facts, the legends, the theories, and the verified details about this coin. And trust me, once you hear the full story, you'll never look at pocket change the same way again. Let's start from the basics. The 2000p Jefferson nickel was minted at the Philadelphia Mint, which has been around since the very beginning of the United States Mint's existence. In that year, billions of coins were struck across all denominations. The nickel, which had long featured the portrait of Thomas Jefferson since 1938, was still running with that same classic design on the obverse, with Monticello, Jefferson's Virginia estate, on the reverse. Nothing radical happened in the design that year. It wasn't a commemorative edition. There wasn't a new composition. In fact, it was business as usual. Or so we thought. More than 940 million Jefferson nickels bearing the P mint mark were minted in 2000. So statistically, you'd think there'd be nothing rare about them. But in the world of coins, rarity isn't always about how many were made. Sometimes it's about how few survived in perfect condition. Sometimes it's about how a very small mistake, a double strike, a misplaced mint mark, or even the use of the wrong planchet can make a coin go from pocket change to prized collectible. But here's where the mystery of the 2000p 5-cent coin gets real deep. Somewhere along the line, rumors began circulating in collector circles that a single example of this coin had fetched or was valued at $45 million. At first glance, it sounds outrageous, maybe even impossible. How could a coin with no known minting errors, no composition changes, and nothing visibly extraordinary be worth more than the most famous rare coins in U.S. history? To understand that, we have to explore both sides of the story, the myth and the market. First, let's talk condition. Most of the coins we use in daily life get beat up pretty fast. They bang around in pockets, jingle in cash registers, get scraped across counters, and fall on the ground. That's why grading is such a big deal. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC, assign numerical grades to coins on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being a perfect, flawless coin. A coin from 2000 in mint state 70 condition, especially if it's a common circulation coin like the 5-cent piece, is actually quite rare. Out of nearly a billion 2000p nickels, very few have survived in MS-70 condition. In fact, the number may be less than a handful. That right there increases the value. Some high-grade coins have fetched thousands of dollars, particularly if there's a low population of perfect specimens. But we're still a long way from $45 million. So where does the big money come in? There's a theory floating around, and it's as wild as it is fascinating. Some believe that one particular 2000p 5-cent coin was struck using an experimental planchet, possibly a transitional metal that was never supposed to be used. During certain years, the U.S. Mint has experimented with different compositions to cut costs or test durability. If a few of these experimental blanks were accidentally used during regular production and somehow escaped into circulation, they could be virtually undetectable until someone with the right tools examined them. Now imagine this: a single 2000p Jefferson nickel with a unique metal composition, unrecognized for years, found in a pile of ordinary change, submitted to a grading service, and identified as a one-of-a-kind error. That, in the eyes of some collectors, would justify astronomical value. Combine that with pristine condition, the right provenance, and a little bit of mystique, and you start to see how legends form. Another angle to this story is tied to private collections and auctions. Sometimes coins don't make headlines when they're bought. They change hands quietly between private collectors, or they get bundled in estate sales. There's an unverified claim that a 2000p 5-cent coin with some extraordinary feature, either composition-based or error-based, was acquired for a sum in the tens of millions by a reclusive collector abroad. While this can't be confirmed through traditional auction records, it's the kind of story that persists, partly because it's just plausible enough and partly because people want to believe it's true. Of course, when a story like that gets out, it spreads fast. Coin communities on forums, Facebook groups, and YouTube start buzzing. Suddenly, everyone's checking their change. They're pulling out magnifying glasses, digital calipers, even buying spectrographs to test their nickels. Is it real? Did someone really pay $45 million for a 5-cent coin? Or is this just a myth built on a foundation of rare errors, once-in-a-lifetime grades, and collector folklore? To get closer to the truth, let's explore a few concrete examples of coins that have sold for massive amounts of money and compare them to our 2000p nickel. Take the 1933 Double Eagle, a $20 gold piece that was never officially released into circulation. One example sold for over $18 million. Or the 1794 flowing hair dollar, considered by many the first silver dollar ever struck by the U.S. Mint. It sold for over $10 million. In both those cases, the coins were extremely rare, with only a few known to exist, and tied to important moments in U.S. Mint history. Now, when you compare that to the 2000p 5-cent coin, the difference seems stark. But that's where condition, provenance, and the element of mystery come in. If a coin is the only known example of something unique, even if it's from a common year, it can command incredible prices. Rarity doesn't always come from age or historical moment. Sometimes it comes from the unknown. Some collectors believe that the $45 million story may not be about a single coin's value, but rather its symbolic worth. For example, what if a collector built an entire collection of modern nickels, each one in MS-70 condition, and the 2000p was the final missing piece? If that coin was the last key to completing a perfect registry set, something never before achieved, its value could skyrocket, not because the coin itself is worth that amount, but because of what it represents, the only complete set in existence. Another theory that adds fire to the myth involves a possible misstrike over a foreign coin blank. The U.S. Mint has contracts and exchanges with other nations from time to time. On very rare occasions, blanks intended for other countries can be accidentally used to strike U.S. coins. That sort of error has happened before. A few Roosevelt dimes have been found struck on foreign planchets. If a 2000p nickel were struck on a planchet meant for a different country, say a silver-based blank or something with a different diameter or weight, and then slipped past quality control, it would be both a modern marvel and a numismatic miracle. The weight of a typical Jefferson nickel is 5.00 grams, and it's made of a composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel. Any deviation from that, whether heavier or lighter, or a difference in alloy composition, could be a red flag that the coin is something unusual. That's why advanced collectors weigh their coins with digital precision scales, checking for the slightest anomalies. But here's the thing. So far, no one has definitively confirmed the existence of a 2000p nickel worth $45 million through public auction records. And yet, the story persists. And maybe that's the magic of it. It blurs the line between fact and legend. It sparks curiosity. It gets people engaged with coin collecting in a way that few things can. Just imagine going through your jar of change one day and realizing that a coin you've had for years, one you barely noticed, could be the very coin people are talking about. And while the $45 million figure may remain unproven, what is absolutely proven is that rare condition 2000p nickels have sold for hundreds and even thousands of dollars. MS-67 examples have fetched more than $1,000. MS-68s, even more. If a true MS-70 surface with exceptional luster, perfect strike, and no visible flaws, it could break records, especially if it's the only one graded that highly. Now, add any anomaly to that, wrong planchet, doubling, missing clad layer, and the value increases exponentially. The real lesson in the story of the 2000p nickel isn't just about chasing million-dollar dreams. It's about paying attention. It's about realizing that the coins in your pocket, the ones that seem completely ordinary, might be anything. Thanks for hanging out today, and if you've got a 2000p nickel lying around, maybe give it a second look. Because sometimes, the biggest treasures hide in plain sight.